Hello everybody, welcome back to Stan's Garage, bringing you everything you need to know for effective business IT management. So today I pose a question: who has the best internet browser, Google or Microsoft? Some of you are probably laughing right now, but let's get into a deep dive on the internet's most used and fastest growing browsers of all time, Edge and Chrome. Who will win? Let's get into it. Now, if you're going off the user base alone, Google's Chrome takes first place by a mile. With over 2.5 billion users, it's hard to argue that Chrome isn't the best. But hey, maybe it's not. As we say goodbye to Internet Explorer for good this year, another takes its place. And Microsoft's Edge browser has now entered the building. And it might be the upcoming favorite. The average person spends about 7 hours per day on the internet. So it's safe to assume that you'll likely have a preference. And very few people, because of the bad taste Internet Explorer left in a lot of people's mouth, both in performance and security, they're never gonna look at a Microsoft browser again. And I don't know if I could blame them. But what makes you choose one browser over another? Do people prefer Google Chrome because it's actually the best browser out there? Or do they use it because of inertial loyalty or just because it's the most popular? You might be surprised that Microsoft Edge is even a contender for the top. Now, to find out which one is truly the best, let's do a one-to-one comparison. Google Chrome was born in 2008. At the time, Edge's precursor, Internet Explorer, was dominating the market with a peak share of 95%. Probably a 95% infection rate for viruses at that time. But within a few years, Google Chrome was able to surpass Internet Explorer and Mozilla Firefox to become the market leader. Today, its market share is at 65%, and what's left of Internet Explorer holds 0.61%. That's less than 1%. It's kind of sad. Initially, Chrome was meant to run on Windows and was later available for Linux, Mac OS, and mobile platforms, iOS and Android. The majority of Chrome's source code comes from Google's free open source software project, Chromium. Maybe you heard it, it's not that important. This browser and many others are constantly fighting for the majority of market share. Microsoft's Edge was introduced alongside Windows 10 and Xbox One in 2015. Has it really been that long already? Okay. Even though Edge was meant to replace Internet Explorer as the primary web browser, IE has only just now been fully removed. Not that anyone noticed, because no one was using it anyway. Edge was originally an HTML-based browser, but in 2020, Microsoft announced a new version of Edge based on Chromium. Same Google open source software used by Chrome. So Microsoft Edge is now available for Windows, Mac OS, Android. Yeah, sure. It's available everywhere. The switch to Chromium makes Edge that much more competitive with Chrome in several ways. Right? I mean, for starters, it's now going to have access to all those add-ons people use in Chrome. However, it's still only around 10% of market share with just over 150 million users. Sounds like a lot, but like 8 billion people on the planet. A small number of them are using Edge. Edge has quite the journey ahead to overtaking Chrome for a top spot. But just because Edge isn't currently in that top spot doesn't mean it can't get there, especially if they truly are the superior browser. So here's some key features I'd like to go over for each browser. Before we take a deeper look into both, let's point out some key features that I think are worth noting. Now, for Chrome, we have a lot of stuff built in. We've got device synchronization, horizontal tabs, tab grouping, bookmarks, a reading list, browser history, password manager, extensions, a task manager, themes, the list goes on and on. Incognito browsing. I mean, these are all just standard features that you imagine your browser to have. And Edge also includes these features, especially since they're based on the same sort of interface, but they call their bookmarks favorites, collections, and histories called browser histories. The extensions are now shared. There's also a password manager. You can control the privacy levels somewhat differently. There's an immersive reader, and they call their incognito mode private browsing. Right? So same stuff, some different names, what have you. Pretty standard for any modern browser. Off the bat, you can see that both have plenty of similar features. As natural competitors, Microsoft and Google don't typically allow significant gaps between their products to persist. They have almost always been tied for first place, at least in the features area. Both can be used for private browsing and seamless web navigation, and it's easy to clear your cache and get some semblance of privacy. Nevertheless, there are quite a few distinctions. So let's go over some of those, and maybe that'll help you decide which one you like better. So, user interface. If you already use Google Chrome, the user interface of Microsoft Edge is going to feel pretty similar, and vice versa. A web browser is a web browser. Sometimes I'm not even sure which one I'm using. Now, for instance, you can have multiple tabs open in one window and bookmark favorite websites. These differences are pretty minimal and largely come down to individual preference. When it comes to tabs, again, slight differences, but they both arrange them in a row at the top of the screen by default. I mean, what more you can ask for when it comes to tabs? But however, Edge now provides the option to switch to a row of vertical tabs on the left side of the page. Might make for some cleaner navigation if you like it that way. Right now, Chrome, it lacks that kind of feature. And there's a Chrome Web Store plugin you can use to achieve that look. It's not built in by default, and none of those plugins work as well as the built-in one in Edge. I mean, I'm fine with horizontal tabs, but hey, someone might like that a little bit better. Both browsers allow you to create tab groups. Both allow you to set color and name for each group. It will automatically rearrange your tabs such that tabs belonging to the same groups are next to each other. Okay? When it comes to bookmarks and favorites, both the same thing effectively. Bookmarks on Chrome, Edge calls them favorites, same way Internet Explorer did. It's basically identical, and you can save pages there for later access. The collections feature in Microsoft Edge is a tool to group those together. Links, images, and text can be added to collections. You can also take notes on your collections. Right? Then you've got various themes and dark modes. If the look of Chrome or Edge doesn't suit you, there are many different custom themes from which to choose. You can view Chrome themes in the Chrome Web Store. Now, although there isn't a specific dark mode, many of the available themes are dark. So have at it. You pretty much make your browser look any way that you feel comfortable with. If you're using Edge, the appearance settings page also allows you to slightly alter the appearance of your browser. Select a theme, then decide whether you want the appearance to be light, dark, or just whatever the defaults are, which will be pretty much based on your existing display settings. Now, if you want something different from the 14 preset options, you can get a theme through either browser's app stores. The Immersive Reader, a feature exclusive to Microsoft Edge, is the Immersive Reader. Chrome has one that you can enable. Actually, Firefox one's pretty good. Now, the page you're reading is transformed into an ebook-like format with a clean layout. Chrome doesn't really have that feature built in, but you could turn it on, and there are add-ons for it. The Firefox one will actually read it back to you, which is kind of awesome. Search engine. Microsoft Edge utilizes Bing as its default search engine. So yes, Bing's still around in case you were wondering. And Chrome will, of course, use Google by default. But either browser will allow you to change that default search engine, which really doesn't affect you too much. Now the big one, performance. Let's talk about speed, which is a feature that distinguishes Microsoft Edge from Google Chrome. Now, when Edge initially launched, Microsoft asserted that it was 112% faster than Chrome. Although the exact accuracy of this statistic is difficult to determine, other people have conducted their own testing and reached similar conclusions. Edge is faster than Chrome. Now, how much faster, that really depends on the activities you're doing at the time. But Chrome, has a resource hog. The lot of running jokes about how much RAM you get, it just ends up in more Chrome tabs. In a test on this by Tom's Guide, it was discovered that Chrome consistently consumed more RAM. For instance, Chrome utilized 3.7 gigs when 60 tabs were active, whereas Edge only used 2.9 gigs. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a little more than 20%. Backup and syncing. Edge previously offered only a few syncing options. One feature that was lacking was the ability to sync your history across devices. Microsoft, however, began releasing these features in 2021. Now that Chrome can almost do everything, Edge can too, including syncing bookmarks, favorites, extensions, history, settings, active tabs, passwords, addresses, payment procedures. I may not feel super comfortable putting my payments and passwords in a browser, but the options are there. Cross-device syncing on Edge must be manually enabled in the settings. Chrome will by default sync your devices, but you may disable it if you prefer. The easiest approach to guarantee that your preferences and favorites are backed up in case of an issue is to go ahead and enable that syncing. Security and privacy. Well, these are big ones you should consider on the web. Security and privacy is a lot of what people are concerned with when it comes to their web browser these days, and they are, rightly so, and one of the more common targets for malware. About 30% of PC exploit attacks happen through web browsers. Selecting a browser with strong security features is pretty critical. Browsers should contain privacy options that enable users some choice over how their data is used, in addition to safeguarding against cyber attacks. First things first, neither Chrome nor Edge are the safest or most private browsers available. Not a big surprise to most people. Browsers like Tor, Brave, and Firefox are better options if privacy is your first goal. But there are some helpful security features in Edge and Chrome. Edge's privacy options are simpler to comprehend and control. A list of blacklisted trackers is available, and you may select from 3 different levels of tracking prevention. It's not bad for Edge, right? Chrome only lets you request do not track on websites, which, considering Google's primary business, I guess that makes sense. Cookies from websites you visit can be managed in both browsers. Microsoft Edge uses Windows Defender or Smart Screen to safeguard users against malware and phishing. Anti-malware tools are also included in Google Chrome. These both function well, and if you keep them updated, either browser should be comparatively safe from attacks. The speed at which Chrome releases updates ensures that any malware vulnerabilities are promptly fixed. Although not quite as swiftly as Chrome, Edge also receives regular updates. Look, just counting on your browser for security, not a great idea. You're going to want some third-party anti-malware protection, and I'll refer to countless videos I've made talking about that. Google is currently being sued for allegedly gathering data from customers who are browsing in incognito mode. Shame on you, Google. While collecting more of your info than Microsoft. Well, again, to be expected with Google. Extensions. There really wasn't a competition when it came to extensions until recently. Chrome had the obvious lead on the amount of extensions they had available in their web store. There are over 150,000 extensions currently available for Chrome, versus a handful of extensions called add-ons on Edge. However, now that Edge is on Chromium, you can use any extensions that Chrome can, so that's kind of cool. The reverse is not so simple. Chrome basically cannot use Microsoft add-ons. So if it's an exclusive one for Microsoft, Chrome is not going to be able to install that. Either way, you still have access to over 100,000 extensions for either browser. Let's talk about some integrations. Chrome is a part of the extensive Google ecosystem, which includes Gmail, Calendar, Drive, Maps, and other services. Many of the Google tools work perfectly well on Edge too, but it definitely feels like Chrome is the ideal place for them. Chrome does have a few advantages because of its interaction with the Google ecosystem though. For example, both browsers let you translate pages from other languages, but Chrome does it using Google Translate, which is a much better app than Edge's Microsoft Translator. But Microsoft's making improvements there. Microsoft has its fair share of integrations as well. Most notably, you can open Microsoft Office documents and edit directly within Edge. It works pretty well within Chrome. One of the things that works a little better, I think, if you want to run Teams in the web browser, it runs pretty well on Edge. Some other features. One cool feature I wanted to note for Edge that Chrome does not have is a coupon finder. Cool might be overstated, but as you shop, Edge will notify you of available coupons. No shortage of add-ons to that sort of thing. So which browser is better, Chrome or Edge? Well, in the past, the comparison between Chrome and Edge typically leaned towards Chrome, having features that Edge didn't. But now, there are a few of those features left with the adoption of Chromium by Edge. Microsoft has done a great job incorporating a lot of the top features that Chrome and other browsers use into Microsoft Edge. Now, especially with that being based on Chromium now, the differences between the two are relatively minimal, and Edge is a little bit faster in independent tests. Probably not getting tracked quite as hard. But if you search in Google, you're accepting cookies, you're probably going to still get tracked that way. So it really comes down to preference. However, with all the improvements, Edge might have a slight edge, pun intended. What can I say? I'm a dad now. Now, if you value speed and low resource consumption, you may want to think about Edge over Chrome. Edge is a great browser with a rising market share, but still has a long way to go before it catches up to Google Chrome. But it is worth a second look if you haven't used it since before the changeover to Chromium. Of course, Google Chrome is extremely well liked and widely used for a reason, and the company will undoubtedly keep enhancing it and adding new features. So as always, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. What do you like? Chrome? Edge? Maybe you like something else? Firefox? Opera? Tor? Whatever it is you're using out there. I'd love to hear why in the comments below. And if you're trying to figure out which browser is the best for your business and would love some help to properly deploy and secure that, feel free to schedule some time with me via the Calendly link in the show notes below. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.